Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into something really interesting today.
Oh, yeah.
It's how the Baha'i Faith looks at those biblical prophecies.
Right.
Specifically, the ones that seem to point towards Bahá'u'lláh.
Yeah, their founder.
Exactly. Now, as some of you might know, the Baha'i Faith is pretty new on the scene.
Relatively.
Yeah, as far as world religions go. And they're all about unity.
Big time. Oneness of humanity, unity of all religions. That's the core of it.
Right. And what's fascinating is how they connect Bahá'u'llah's revelation
Is coming, yeah.
with prophecies from both the Old and New Testaments.
It's a bold connection they make, for sure.
So, are we ready to uncover some of these links?
Let's do it. We're talking about some pretty powerful stuff here. Prophecies of a new name, a river of life.
Whoa, a mountaintop gathering.
It's not just symbolism for them.
No.
These have direct interpretations tied to Bahá'u'lláh and his teachings.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's start unpacking. The first one that jumps out is from Isaiah 40.5. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
A classic.
Totally. But here's the thing.
What's that?
The name Bahá'u'lláh literally means the glory of God in Arabic.
Ah, see, that's where the Baha'i interpretation gets really interesting.
Anyway, break it down for me.
They see a direct connection, not just a general statement about God.
It's specifically about Bahá'u'lláh.
To them, it foreshadows his appearance and how his message would spread globally.
Like he was pointing to him all along.
That's how they see it, yeah.
Wow, that's a bold claim. But how does this fit with the idea of progressive revelation?
Ah, you mean the idea that God reveals truth through different prophets over time?
Exactly, like building on each other.
Right. Well, the Baha'i Faith believes that God's message is always evolving.
In a way that makes sense to people at different times.
Exactly. Each prophet builds on what came before.
And Bahá'u'lláh is part of that chain.
They see him as continuing that process.
Fulfilling the old prophecies, but bringing a new message for today.
Exactly.
I see. So he both fulfills and expands upon what came before.
You got it.
Okay, that's starting to make sense. Now let's jump to the New Testament, Revelation 3.12.
Okay, what does it say?
And I will write upon him my new name. What's the Baha'i take on this new name?
Here's where symbolism comes in.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's not about literally changing a name.
So what does it represent?
It's a fresh revelation from God.
A new understanding of his will.
Exactly. It marks a new phase, a shift in how we understand things spiritually.
So this new name represents the power of Bahá'u'llah's teachings.
And the new spiritual era he brings.
Like a new chapter is beginning.
Precisely.
Wow, this reminds me of those images of light and darkness you see in Scripture.
Yeah, very common.
And speaking of that, Isaiah 60.2 describes it well.
What does it say?
For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee.
Powerful imagery.
How do Baha'is view those words?
They see it as a reflection of the world when Baha'u'lláh appeared.
A time of darkness and conflict.
Exactly, lots of division.
And Baha'u'llah's teachings are the light breaking through.
That's how they interpret it.
Like a beacon of hope in a troubled time.
Guiding humanity toward unity and peace.
Just like the classic hero's journey. Hope emerging from despair.
A perfect analogy.
And this idea of unity is so central to the Baha'i faith, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's woven into everything they believe.
In fact, I think it leads right into the next prophecy we want to look at.
Oh, this one is a big one.
With some profound implications for how they see the world and their place in it.
You could say that again.
Okay, now you've really got me curious. Let's dive into that next prophecy.
Let's do it. Okay, so this next prophecy we're going to look at.
Yeah.
It comes from Isaiah 2.2.
Okay.
And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and all nations shall flow unto it.
Right, a mountaintop.
You might be picturing like a literal mountain.
Yeah, that's what comes to mind.
But the Baha'i Faith, they interpret this symbolically.
Oh, okay, so what does this mountain of the Lord's house represent for them?
They see it as this symbol of a world that is united under a universal order.
Mm-hmm.
Like a global society where peace and justice are like the norm.
Gotcha. So it's not so much a physical mountain.
No.
It's more about a state of being.
Yeah, like the systems and principles.
That can bring everybody together.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a vision of global unity then.
That's it. Working together for the common good.
That's powerful. And does this connect at all to their administrative structure?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know they have that universal house of justice.
Yes.
Right.
You're exactly right. The Baha'i Faith sees that universal house of justice as a step towards this global unity.
It's prophesied in Isaiah.
Yep, it's their international governing body,
Okay.
elected by Baha'is all over the world. And they're tasked with guiding the affairs of the community.
So applying those teachings to the challenges of today.
That's the goal.
So they're actually putting this vision into practice.
In a way, yeah.
That's remarkable. Trying to create a global system of governance.
It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
And they definitely acknowledge the complexity of it all.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the core principle, right,
Yeah.
is that fostering unity and collaboration.
On a global scale.
Just like the prophecy talks about.
That makes me think about the day of the Lord.
Okay.
That's a theme that comes up a lot in biblical prophecy.
It does.
And it's often associated with judgment and upheaval.
Right, the traditional interpretation.
So do Baha'is see it that way too?
That's a good question, and it's actually a point where their understanding kind of diverges.
Oh, how so?
Well, instead of a day of wrath and judgment,
Okay.
they see it as a period of spiritual awakening.
Oh, interesting.
It's a time when humanity recognizes its interconnectedness and starts to build a more just and unified world.
So it's not about fire and brimstone.
No.
It's more about transforming hearts and minds.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that oneness of humanity
Okay.
and putting those principles of unity and love into practice.
The ones that Bahá'u'lláh taught.
Yeah,
So it's like a call to action
it is.
to create a better future.
That's the idea.
And speaking of action, I know social justice is really important to the Baha'i Faith.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does that tie into this whole idea of building a more unified world?
It's a central piece. They believe that promoting social justice is key to creating lasting peace.
Okay.
So they're involved in social action initiatives all over the world.
Addressing things like poverty and education.
All of that, gender equality, environmental sustainability.
So it's not just words. They're really out there trying to make a difference.
Exactly. They believe in taking action and collaborating with others.
Working together to address these challenges.
Yep, to create a more just and equitable world.
For everyone.
That's the goal.
It's inspiring to see a faith put their principles into practice like that.
I agree.
And it reminds me of another key thing about the Baha'i teachings.
What's that?
That emphasis on the equality of all people.
Yes.
I understand they are really against all forms of prejudice.
Yeah, that's a fundamental principle for them.
That all humans are created equal,
In the eyes of God,
no matter their background.
race, religion, gender, social status, none of that matters.
That's a message that really speaks to me, especially these days.
It's a message we need now more than ever.
With all the division and intolerance we're seeing.
It's a timeless message about our shared humanity.
Right, and if these prophecies about unity and a new spiritual age
Yeah.
are really being fulfilled through the Baha'i Faith, it makes you wonder, what does that mean for the rest of us?
It does.
What's our role in all of this?
It's a big question.
Yeah,
It's easy to say we should work for unity and peace,
right.
but how do we actually do that?
In our everyday lives,
That's the challenge.
it is.
I think it starts with small acts of kindness and understanding. Treating everyone with respect and dignity.
Even those we disagree with.
Especially those we disagree with.
Challenging prejudice and injustice.
Wherever we see it.
It's about making choices that reflect the kind of world we want.
That's it.
So it's not about waiting for some future event.
No.
It's about what we do right now.
In this moment.
Yeah, embodying those principles of unity and love.
In every interaction.
Being the change we want to see.
Exactly. And what's important to remember is that these prophecies aren't just about some distant future.
Okay.
They're describing a process that's happening right now.
That's a good point. So Baha'is don't see these prophecies as just predicting the future.
No.
It's a call to action.
Yes.
To build a new world order.
Exactly. The Baha'i writings emphasize that we have a collective responsibility.
To work towards unity and peace.
We're not just watching it happen.
We're part of it.
We're shaping our destiny.
That's powerful. It's like we have a role to play in bringing those prophecies to life.
That's the idea, recognizing our own agency and working together.
To create the world we want to see?
Precisely.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
That's good.
But there's one thing I'm still wondering.
Okay, what's that?
How do Baha'is reconcile their interpretations of these biblical prophecies with other interpretations, especially from faiths who also believe they fulfill those prophecies?
Good question. That gets to the heart of progressive revelation.
Aggressive revelation.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a bit for me?
Of course. So it's the belief that God's truth is revealed gradually throughout history.
Okay.
through a series of prophets and messengers.
Like building upon each other?
Each one brings teaching suited for their time period.
Building on the foundations laid before?
Exactly.
So it's like this continuous unfolding of God's will.
Adapting to humanity's evolution.
Okay, I get it. That makes sense.
And that's where the Baha'i perspective on biblical prophecies comes in. They see Bahá'u'llah's revelation as the latest chapter in this ongoing story.
The latest chapter of divine guidance.
Exact.
So they're not saying they have the only correct interpretation.
Yeah, not at all. They acknowledge the diversity of beliefs.
And they respect those other interpretations.
Absolutely.
Even if they differ from their own.
They see it as reflecting different stages of humanity's spiritual understanding.
That's a really inclusive approach.
It's about recognizing the core message.
Yeah.
And building bridges of understanding, even across religions.
Which brings us back to those key themes we keep seeing in these prophecies.
Right.
Unity, peace, a new spiritual awakening.
It's a universal call to action.
That everyone can connect with.
It speaks to those deep desires we all have.
For connection and meaning.
And a world where justice and love prevail.
That's beautiful.
It is.
It gives me a sense of hope.
That's what it's all about.
That we're not just watching this happen.
Right.
We're part of it.
We're creating the future.
Wow, this has been incredible.
Right. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
You've given me so much to think about, and I'm sure our listeners feel the same way.
That's great to hear.
You know, it's amazing to think that these ancient texts, written thousands of years ago, still have so much to teach us today.
They really do.
It's incredible.
It's a testament to that enduring power of spiritual wisdom.
You're absolutely right. Okay, so now that we've kind of laid the groundwork,
We have.
let's shift gears a bit.
Sounds good.
In the last part of our deep dive,
All right.
we'll get into some specific examples of how these prophecies...
The one's about unity and a new spiritual age.
Exactly. How they're being lived out in the Baha'i community and beyond.
Love it.
So we've been exploring how the Baha'i Faith interprets these biblical prophecies.
Right.
And it's clear that it's not just about ideas.
No, definitely
They're
not.
really a call to action.
A blueprint.
Yeah. For building a better world.
For sure.
So let's get into the real world stuff. How are Baha'is putting these principles of unity and peace into practice?
Well, one of the most prominent things they do is interfaith dialogue.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and collaboration.
So they're actually engaging with people of other faiths.
Oh, yeah. Actively.
Trying to find common ground.
Exactly.
And build bridges.
Not just tolerating other beliefs.
It's about really understanding them.
Yeah. Baha'is believe that by focusing on those shared values,
the things that unite us.
As human beings, we can overcome those divisions.
That often separate religious communities.
Exactly. And this goes beyond just talking.
Oh, good. I was hoping you'd say that.
They're involved in practical initiatives, too.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, they might participate in joint service projects.
Okay.
To address things like poverty.
Makes sense.
Hunger, environmental degradation.
Working together.
Yeah, the idea is that by working together, people of different faiths can make a bigger difference.
And create a more just society.
Exactly. More compassionate as well.
It's fascinating how they're taking these ancient prophecies about unity.
Yeah.
And making them relevant today.
It's about putting those words into action.
Yeah, like let's set aside our differences and focus on what we can do together.
That's a great way to put it. And this spirit of collaboration extends beyond interfaith work, too.
Oh, how so?
Well, Baha'i communities often host events and gatherings.
Okay.
And they're open to everyone.
So anyone can come?
No matter their background or beliefs.
That's welcoming.
It's about creating spaces where people can connect, build relationships.
Learn from each other.
Exactly.
That's like these little microcosms.
Yeah, mini versions.
Of that world they envision.
Where diversity is celebrated and everyone belongs.
It's not just about religion then.
No.
It's about building unity at every level of society.
That's the goal.
And speaking of reaching beyond borders, the Baha'i Faith is global, right?
Oh, yeah, truly global.
With members in almost every country.
Pretty much.
And that must play a big role in their efforts to fulfill these prophecies.
Oh, absolutely. It allows them to share their vision with so many different people.
From all sorts of cultures.
They believe that by connecting across national boundaries, we can start to break down those barriers and create a more interconnected world.
It's really inspiring to see how a relatively new faith is already having such a big impact.
It is, and it speaks to the power of their beliefs.
And their dedication.
To action, to really putting things into practice.
And remember, it all comes back to those biblical prophecies.
The ones we've been talking about.
Unity, peace, A new spiritual age.
They're not just ancient words.
Right.
It's like a living blueprint.
For a better future.
A future we can all help build.
This deep dive has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
You're very welcome. It's been my pleasure.
I know our listeners are going to want to learn more.
I hope so.
And for those who do, the Baha'i Faith has a ton of resources online.
And in the local communities.
So whether or not these prophecies resonate with you personally,
yeah,
we hope this exploration has sparked your curiosity.
Giving you something to think about.
Because we all have a role to play in building that more unified and peaceful world.
We do.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring.